Hello, I'm Owen Birkey. I'm a sophomore in the construction engineering and management major, and this presentation is a review of my summer internship this last summer in 2023. To hop into it, I worked for DPR Construction. They're a nationwide company with offices all around the outside of the United States. I worked in their Charlotte office in North Carolina. And I signed an NDA and worked for a company or an owner that wants to remain unknown, but I got to work on a data center this summer. To give a quick overview of the project that I was on, it was an electrical retrofit of a data center. So DPR built the data center 12 years ago, and since then they have maintained a presence there to perform electrical upgrades. To quickly explain a retrofit, so like I said, we've been there for 12 years, and the entire time we've just been updating things. So as new technology comes out, we're the ones who go out and install it, or our subcontractors are. And so we're constantly writing new contracts with our owner and going out and either managing or self-performing the work. One reason that this is important is because there is over a mile of server rows and networking equipment in the data center. It consists of 4 buildings, each of which is a quarter-mile long, and there are thousands and thousands of servers and network rows. To hop into more specifically of one of the projects that I worked on, it is called Row Reserve Loop, and to explain what I did, you need to first understand how a data center works. So a data center is made up of servers like that, and these are in rows. Each row has a control panel on the end. It's called an RPP. That RPP feeds from the main switchboard. So power comes in from Duke. That is just who supplies power in North Carolina. It goes into the electrical room to the main switchboard. From there, it's broken out to rows of servers, RPPs, in groups of 6. So one breaker on the main switchboard controls 6. I'm simplifying things, but controls 6 rows of servers. And the owner that I worked for does not allow any service work to be done on live equipment, and so if they want to do any work on a server or a networking row, they have to flip that breaker in the main switchboard room and turn off not just 1 but 6 rows. And they've realized this is inefficient, and so our job this summer and DPR's job ongoing is to continue to add reserve connections to each of these RPPs so that when the main switchboard stops delivering power, the reserve switchboard can kick on to the 5 rows that are not being serviced. Another project that I worked on is the pond project. Data halls have flat roofs, and when it rains, these roofs need to drain. They go to retention ponds. Like I said, our project is 12 years old, and so these retention ponds have filled in with sediment over time, and so we're draining them and redigging them. I worked on submittals, RFIs, project closeout. For both of these projects, I got to do some pre-construction with the pond project. It hasn't begun yet. Some lessons that I learned this summer is that safety is vital to a healthy culture. And that kicked off at the beginning of summer. I took an OSHA 30 class through DPR. I spent 4 days learning what proper safety looks like according to OSHA. And it was really awesome to have a company that promotes that and takes safety incredibly seriously. To illustrate that, I had 0 safety incidents on my job site this summer, and we weren't a small job site either. We had over 100 electricians, as well as a project management team of at least 25 people, and a lot of self-performed guys who did drywall, who did concrete, who were coming and going throughout the summer. And to just double down and illustrate how big of a deal that is, my company records a safety incident as any activity that could have injured someone. Or anything that went wrong. So if I'm standing on a ladder and I'm 6 feet in the air and I drop my tape measure, that could have hit someone and it could have hurt them. That's a safety incident. There were 0 of those the entire summer that I worked there. And it was really cool to work for a company and an owner and with subcontractors whose goal above anything else is to send their workers home safe at the end of the day. They come to work to provide for their families. We want to send them safe home to their families. And I have no desire to work for a company who doesn't take safety incredibly seriously. Another thing I wish I would have, that I learned is that relationships come first. I'm a very relational person, and I realized how great that is in the workplace. Making relationships with your coworkers and with your tradespeople outside of work, knowing who they are as a person, what they enjoy, makes work a whole lot more enjoyable. Not only are they willing to work harder, but it just makes work more fun. And so I'm really grateful that I made those relationships. One other thing that I learned is that if I wasn't asking questions, I was doing it wrong. I asked a ton of questions this summer, and I learned a ton of stuff. Had I not asked any questions, I would have come out of internship the same way that I went in. And so I'm quite grateful for that. This is my greatest slide, covers my greatest challenges and my greatest triumphs. One of the biggest challenges for me this summer was the sink or swim nature of DPR. I basically got tossed into a desk and given some work to do and said, figure it out, ask questions if you need help. And so I asked a lot of questions, but I had to figure things out on my own as well. I had to learn how to use some new software. I had to learn how to read electrical drawings. I didn't have any industry experience, and so figuring all of that out was challenging. It was good, but it was challenging. Another challenge was my 3-hour commute. Every day I drove an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half home. And that was a lot, but I appreciated it by the end of the summer. One last challenge, I'll talk more about it later, was just working far away from everything that I know. I was away from home, I was away from my church, I was away from my friends, and I had to make new relationships as well as figure out how to do a new type of work, and it was a lot, but it was good. My greatest triumph would honestly be earning trust and proving myself to my coworkers and to myself. I walked in day one and they didn't have any trust in me. They didn't know what I could do or what I was capable of. And by the end of summer, I was leading punch walks with our owner and my superintendent, but I was leading it. He was there to listen if I had questions or if our owner had questions. I was working on closeout. I did project closeout for one data hall all on my own. I wrote RFIs all on my own. I submitted them without someone looking over my shoulder, and I got to lead meetings with our trade partners. Another triumph would be jumping out of a plane. I went skydiving, and I also spent a good amount of time on Lake Norman, which just goes to show you that you can have a ton of fun at your internship, even outside of work. Really quickly, some things I wish I knew before I hopped into my first internship is how awesome MEP work is and how much I enjoy it. I don't think I would have wasted time looking for other internships that didn't offer MEP work. And honestly, I won't even consider one that doesn't have it in the future just because I think it's that cool. Another thing I wish I would have known is that my company wanted me to succeed. And by that, I just mean that having an intern isn't easy. The people that you're working with have real jobs other than babysitting you. Your company has to pay you, and they pay you pretty well. And so they're not just doing it so that you can have an internship. They want you to learn. They want you to succeed. They want you to come back and work for them in the future. And so I would just say to take charge and be hungry. Your company is there to support you. At least mine was. DPR is great. One other thing I wish I knew is that traveling away from home is fun. I dreaded it. I came straight from a mission trip and hopped into internship, and I went through a bit of a culture shock. But I got to experience a new culture. I got to meet new people. I got to try new foods, and I got to cookout. I never had cookout before. It's pretty great. The southern people have it nice. But I also got to experience a new industry sector. I don't think that I would have had the opportunity to work for such a big owner and a big construction company on a data center here in Indiana. And it was really awesome to get to do that. The last thing I want to say is thank you for your attention. My name is Owen Birkey, like I said. That's my email on the screen. If you ever have any questions about DPR or about data centers or about living away from home or I don't know, just whatever, feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to field those questions. And yes, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.